punted off into the fall. But, Mr. Speaker, with the throne speech yesterday, Liberals have effectively admitted that it was their policies that caused the suffering for Canadians. Their reckless borrowing and massive deficits caused the inflation. The carbon tax drove up prices and drove away investment. And their anti-development bills chased jobs out of Canada. Now, the Prime Minister is claiming that somehow the Liberals have changed. Well, he has a chance to prove it to Canadians. If he's serious, will he tell Canadians that pipelines are part of his values by repealing Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines bill?
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you're having a wonderful day so far. I got a good one for you today. So, question period is finally back after about 6 months, and man, was it a doozy. And the first one for Mark Carny. Let's see how he did.
Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to welcome the Prime Minister to his first official question period. This is where democracy lives, and this is where we provide rigorous scrutiny on every word he says and every dollar he spends on behalf of Canadians. Now, let's talk about those words and dollars. During the election campaign, it was elbows up as he put retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. Then secretly, he dropped those tariffs to effectively zero. But he didn't stop there. He told Canadians that the government would collect $20 billion in revenue from those tariffs and use it to cost his platform. Now that those tariffs are going to bring in $0, two quick questions. Why wasn't he honest with Canadians during the election? And how is he going to make up the shortfall? Is he going to borrow it, print it, or tax it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, may I first thank my constituents from Nepean for giving me the honour of being here. And could you also indulge me to say how great it is to see you in the Speaker's chair, and I trust that you're operating under the period of grace that will not be accorded to me, appropriately, as the Leader of the Opposition just said. Mr. Speaker, our tariffs have maximum impact on the United States, minimum impact on Canada, and we are dedicating all the revenues from those tariffs to supporting the workers and businesses affected by the unjustified American actions.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So what is Andrew Scheer talking about right here when he says Canada's tariffs are effectively zero on all of the tariffs that they were going to do against the United States? Well, if we go to the Financial Post here, they explain everything. So, from the Financial Post, Canada's new tariffs on U.S. drop nearly to zero with exemptions. And I believe that Mark Carny did this through an order in council in April and really didn't, say anything about it during his elbows up era during the election. Anyways, the Financial Post pretty much goes through how we suspended almost all of our retaliatory tariffs on the United States, according to Oxford Economics. And it says that through an order of council, the government announced a 6-month tariff exemption for products used in Canadian manufacturing, processing, and food and beverage packaging, and for items related to healthcare, public safety, and national security. So that means military stuff, which mostly we buy from the States. Public safety, pretty much same thing. Healthcare, well, all of our devices pretty much, and our medicine that we get from the United States, but we get a lot of it from China. And they go on to say that automakers got a break too. So didn't Donald Trump bring a bunch of tariffs on Canadian auto dealers? Now we don't have, or there's an exemption for them for 6 months. Because during the election, Mark Carney said that all of the money that they were going to make from these tariffs are going to go to Canadians to help through the tariff wars, quote unquote. Where's the money going to come from right now? Now there's all of these exemptions until October. Anyways, after that rant, I'll leave the Financial Post article down in the link below, and you can read it all there.
Well, he didn't take long to pick up old Liberal habits of not being able to answer questions. But since the election, Canadians have been inundated with grand rhetoric and pretty speeches from this Liberal Party, but they are still suffering under all those policies. Household debt up at record levels, number of people who can't pay their mortgages increasing, food bank use continuing to rise. Now TD Bank is forecasting a recession with hundreds of thousands of lost jobs. The PM said undoing the damage of the last 10 years would require great speed, but he's not going to table a budget for 6 months. If he's the man with the plan and the guy you hire in a crisis, why won't he table a budget before he goes on summer vacation?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I understand the member of the opposition is very busy. Didn't have a chance to study closely the 100-day plan of the former member from Ottawa, Carleton, which did not include a budget. Our plan includes legislating. Our plan includes legislating for one Canadian economy and nation-building projects immediately to grow this economy, and we expect the support from all in this House.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, duh, he wasn't in government yet. The government is supposed to put a budget forward, not a party. And the Conservatives did have a relative budget plan put out. But yeah, it's the government that's in power's job to put a budget through. Why would the Conservatives waste the time during an election to bring out a budget? Anyways, another non-answer from Mark Carny. Let's see if this is just going to be an older Trudeau.
They must be really afraid to come clean with Canadians if they're going to punt it off into the fall. But, Mr. Speaker, with the throne speech yesterday, Liberals have effectively admitted that it was their policies that caused the suffering for Canadians. Their reckless borrowing and massive deficits caused the inflation. The carbon tax drove up prices and drove away investment. And their anti-development bills chased jobs out of Canada. Now, the Prime Minister is claiming that somehow the Liberals have changed. Well, he has a chance to prove it to Canadians. If he's serious, will he tell Canadians that pipelines are part of his values by repealing Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines bill?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Canada's new government is acting immediately to grow this economy. I just made my maiden speech in this House. Canada's new government, Mr. Speaker, is acting immediately to grow this economy. One Canadian economy out of 13, nation-building projects, one project office, working with the provinces to cooperate. We expect the support from the members opposite.
Hear, hear.
Yes, but what are those nation-building projects that you keep going on about? It's kind of important to know what these projects are, especially when we don't have a budget to know what we're actually spending this money on. But that's another story for later today when I come out with May 29th's question period. Whew, there was some spicy chats in that one. And as for the food bank usage and stuff like that, just a reiteration that in 2024, there was over 2 million new visits at the food bank. 2 million. And just looking up here, the Daily Bread Food Bank in Toronto, and this is just, mind you, one food bank, recorded 3.75 million visits in 2024, anticipates that its numbers will rise to approximately 4.25 million people in 2025. This projection underscores the escalating demand for food, is what they say. This is going backwards, not forwards, and we need our government to get its head out of its ass and fix these problems that are massive problems.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister campaigned on the slogan, "The man with a plan," but the problem is that he's refusing to tell Canadians what that plan is. A budget would have been a plan. The Liberals are going to go over a year without tabling a budget. That's never happened since the 60s. But what we do know is that this Prime Minister is determined to spend even more than Justin Trudeau, and he's refusing to tell Canadians how he intends to spend their money. What is the Prime Minister trying to hide about this Liberal government's finances? Mr. Speaker, the new Canadian government has a plan. It has a daring plan, an ambitious plan to bring together the Canadian economy, have one economy instead of 13, and in order to create new projects to build this great nation.
Well, like I said before, the Bloc Québécois has stated outright that no pipeline will be put through Quebec, and that would stop any Canada-wide one economy plan in itself. So what are their plans to create one economy for all of Canada? And to be particularly honest, that's not really how Canada works. We're a federation of provinces, and each province has sovereignty over their own natural resources. Now, would I be excited to knock down interprovincial trade barriers? Yes, that would be awesome. But unfortunately, I keep bringing up Quebec, but it's because I used to live in Alberta, so I know how it is. That it's not going to be a thing. I can just tell you that much.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, what I'm seeing in front of me is the same ministers, the same government that's been in place for 10 years. We know the result of 10 years of this Liberal government. And what we have now, yes, is a new Prime Minister, but a Prime Minister with no plan. He said he had one, but he doesn't want to table a budget because he knows perfectly well that his plan is disastrous and that our public finances are in a terrible state. Will this Prime Minister commit to tabling a budget before the summer? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government will act immediately to cut taxes on the middle class by hundreds of dollars for the average family. We will also reduce or remove GST on new home builds. We have a plan, and we will be bringing in that plan immediately.
As I stated earlier, I do like this no GST for new home builds for first-time home buyers. Now, how it's implemented will have to be closely watched, because if there is any loophole that like a big business can make a shell business and then buy a home or something like that, or something, then we need to know about it. Other than that, I did make a mistake last time about the GST tax credit middle class are going to get. People who earn over $50,000 will get it, but it's going to be around $33 a month. A little bit over, $33 to $37. So enjoy your 3 free steaks a month, I guess.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, a few weeks ago, we were having an election campaign. And during the election campaign, we heard a lot about the threats of Donald Trump. Now, this government brought in retaliatory tariffs against Donald Trump, but then they discreetly took away those tariffs during the campaign. But they didn't say anything about it because they wanted to make sure that Canadians would stay scared. But now we have a $20 billion budget hole, and that's on top of a budget that already had a heavy deficit. Could we finally get a new budget so that we can understand what's going on with our finances? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. the member across the way, must have been referring to the Conservative platform when he talked about the $20 billion deficit. Well, that's all right. Well, Mr. Speaker, we have counter tariffs against the Americans, and they will have maximum impact on the United States while having minimum impact in Canada. The Honorable...
It's not going to have any impact on the United States because of all the exceptions we were just talking about. So, to say that our financials are in a mess is taking it lightly. Because from what I heard from today's question period, Liberals put towards, it wasn't a budget, but kind of, I don't know what you call it, but they kind of say like a spending bill or something like that. And it was a little under $500 billion. It was 486 billion. That's more than Trudeau was spending last year. And this guy was supposed to be like the banker who, you know, was gonna really, really bring our finances back. Seems like just another typical spend it till you make it Liberal.
Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the topic that set off this election campaign and the entire basis of the Liberal strategy was the trade and tariff and even the annexation crisis that we've been seeing with Donald Trump. But despite this, yesterday's throne speech, read by a foreign monarch, did not mention trade. It did not mention tariffs. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering how it is that this terrible crisis that got our Prime Minister elected, how did it just get forgotten in the throne speech? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, for those who were there at the throne speech, for those who were there, we heard about transformation in the throne speech, the transformation of the global trade system, which is a crisis for Canada, a security crisis for Canada. We have a daring plan in order to respond to this crisis. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, the Prime Minister will perhaps agree that some things are clearer when you read them than when you hear them. Now, the King's speech was incredibly centralizing, so centralizing that I think even Justin Trudeau must have felt embarrassed. We heard about a single economy, one Canadian economy, without asking anyone what they thought of that, even though the National Assembly of Quebec unanimously denounced that notion. It seems that for the Prime Minister, Canada is just a country where the provinces are like the branches of a bank that is headquartered in Toronto. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are in the middle of an economic crisis. This is a time for unity. Yes, this crisis was created by the Americans, Mr. Speaker. This is a time for unity. This is why my ministers and I, or rather, the premiers and I will meet, the premiers of Quebec and the premiers of all the provinces will meet this weekend in Saskatoon. The Honourable Member for Belleuil.
No. This economic crisis was made by the Liberal Party of Canada. It was created by Trudeau and it's just being perpetuated by Mark Carny now. Yes, the tariffs exasperated things and maybe made a bunch of, like, the bond market go haywire and the stock market go haywire. I mean, it also, unfortunately, that did destroy a lot of jobs and stuff like that. But the economic crisis that we're having right now started in COVID, and we were warned of this by none other than Pierre Poilievre, and it's ignored. And now what the Liberals are going to do is they're going to use Trump as the big bad to spend and spend and spend and spend and keep saying it's for Canadians' prosperity and make moneymaker go burr, just like they did during COVID when the Great Cold was the reason why they had to spend and spend and spend. And how much did they waste then? And we were in a crisis then. And that's why they had to waste so much money and get everything out right away. Things are starting to rhyme and repeat itself.
L'œil Chambly. Well, it's a little bit like a military staff meeting where the general will give orders and expect everyone else to obey. Now, on another subject, let's talk about the climate crisis. That's an issue too, you know. It's causing all sorts of problems. It's causing damage for people. It's causing economic damage as well. We believe that we need to take strong action against the climate crisis. But yesterday, in the throne speech, we heard nothing about the climate. Instead, measures are being projected that will actually harm the climate and the environment. Does the Prime Minister recognize the existence of climate change? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, yes, of course, the climate crisis exists. And it's a major challenge facing our nation. And that's why Canada needs to become an energy superpower, both in traditional and green energy. And that's why in Alberta, at the G7, next month, we will be holding a discussion on forest fires.
Lakeland.
Come on, Francois. This guy is called Carbon Tax Carny for a reason. Of course he knows about, or of course he believes in climate change. Like, that's why he has that nickname. What we need to see is the budget that says, hey, this is how we're going to make Canada a place where all the companies and everyone's going to want to go to get green energy and traditional energy. It's going to be the most popular place. We need to know how that's going to happen. Now, I think that if we invest a lot in nuclear energy for the green energy, and this is the coolest thing, like they did in California, invest in fusion energy, that's free energy right there. And that's green, as green can get. And as for traditional energy, oil and gas, stuff like that. But we don't know if they actually plan on investing in that sort of thing, or if it's like the GST credit where they're going to put $100 million into a couple of projects and then it's going to take 2 years to be put in.
Thousands of workers who lost their jobs when these Liberals killed pipelines, LNG exports to allies, and capped Canadian oil and gas. Last year, 98% of Canadian crude went to the U.S., Canada's biggest customer and competitor, due to these Liberals. But in April, the PM said he won't repeal their No New Pipelines, Never Build Anything unlawful Bill C-69 and ignores premiers and businesses. When will he repeal Bill C-69?
The Minister for Natural Resources.
To rise in the House for the first time. I wish to thank the people of Markham Thornhill for their trust. I'm also thinking of my family. Who have supported me from day one, and my parents who I wish were still with us. It's time to get many projects built here in Canada. We will cut red tape, fast-track projects, and approve them within 2 years. We will create jobs for Canadians and build the strongest economy in the G7.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
In 5 years alone, these Liberals killed 16 major energy projects and $176 billion in options to make Canada affordable, safe, self-reliant, and united. And half these ministers, they're the same. These Liberals must kill C-69, but they can't get their story straight. 2 weeks ago, the Culture Minister said Canada doesn't need more pipelines. Last week, the Energy Minister talked a good game, but just like right now, won't commit to concrete action. How can Canadians believe anything they say? Will they repeal Bill C-69? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
The Prime Minister has been clear. Yes, we will support new pipelines if there is consensus in Canada for them. With American tariffs threatening our economy and threatening our sovereignty, we must protect our energy security. There is no question energy is Canada's power. It will help us build the strongest economy in the G7, guide the world in the right direction, and help us be strong at the negotiating table. We will win this trade war. We will make Canada an energy superpower.
The Honourable Member for Skeena, Bulkley Valley.
Now, forgive us for being a little bit skeptical about Mark Carney and the Liberal Party actually investing in pipelines. I mean, in the past 10 years, the only pipeline they've invested in is Trans Mountain Pipeline, and that's after they killed it with regulations. So forgive me for being skeptical that Mark Carney actually wants any traditional energy to actually be built. Just read his book. There's a reason why people called him Carbon Tax Carney, and I don't think somebody can change that quickly. And let's not forget that his entire cabinet is the pretty much exact same as Trudeau's cabinet. So, is anything going to get built? I don't think so. But I can still hope that some nuclear energy will be built in Canada. That's a deep-seated hope. But what do you guys think? What do you think about Mark Carney's performance during his first ever question period? Me personally, I think it pretty much went the same way it would have went with Trudeau, and he didn't really do much better, but kind of a question, no answer. But like I said, let me know what you think down below, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And other than that, have a great day.